We have completed our first 8-week period in the Champions League and Europa League. In other words, we have finished the league stage. Our teams also competed. Unfortunately, there were teams that we lost. Başakşehir and Beşiktaş had fun here. Fenerbahçe and Galatasaray will continue on their way somehow. Now, I would like to share my general thoughts on this format with you. While you press the like button, I'll start the evaluation. Honestly, I feel that the Champions League, Europa League, and Conference League are quite different from each other. So this is somewhat related to the teams involved, maybe related to the matches, maybe related to my perspective and ours. For example, I enjoyed the Champions League more, especially on the last day. I had an incredible amount of fun. During the live broadcast, because it was probably around 3.5 hours, we followed all the Champions League matches moment by moment. We tracked the scores and there were over 60 goals in 18 matches. Therefore, there were quite a few matches with a high goal average. In that sense, it was enjoyable to follow what happened here because we saw more goal-heavy scenarios as very strong teams matched up with very weak teams. And at one point, there was an 11-point threshold, which we didn't expect for the top 24. Meanwhile, we were expecting 10 points. Maximum, because the teams below are very weak. The teams above were very strong. But still, the surprise happened here. Teams like Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Juventus and City did not make it into the X8, contrary to expectations. Okay, maybe Juventus, but you would at least expect Bayern, Real and City to make it into the X8. So I was honestly surprised by that. And there was something I had been saying since the beginning of the season. Because there are so many matches, some clubs might think they can skip them somehow, and maybe many champions won't be eliminated again. Or I thought there would be a lack of concentration. Because already, the feature of the Champions League is having fewer matches and making them more special. We always talked about this, but when there are too many matches, too many similar matches, at some point we stopped following. Maybe. And I think maybe the players also slacked off a bit, leading to such interesting results. Of course, there were surprises as well. I mean, this also led to some nice surprises. When there are too many matches, the number of surprises also increases. Under normal circumstances, in a league scenario, as the number of matches increases, you would actually expect to see a ranking where the stronger teams are at the top, but due to the factors I mentioned, this didn't happen. Especially in the Champions League, interesting rankings emerged, but the last week was particularly entertaining. I skipped all the weeks. I got into the mindset of just watching the last week. I think the first and last weeks were very entertaining. All the matches in between felt completely empty. I think only the team's fans watch those matches. And also people like us who are a bit crazy watch them. Otherwise, how beneficial was it? I don't know in terms of viewership and such, what happened next. The playoff rules were drawn. At least UEFA managed to salvage a bit with City facing Bayern or when Real Madrid's matchup came up. But they already matched with Real Madrid, but look at all the other matches, man. None of them seemed that exciting. I mean, maybe Sporting Dortmund in terms of name. On the other side, there's the Paris Saint-Germain versus Brest match, which was just in the Ligue 1 match this week. Paris Saint-Germain had already defeated Brest. Very unbalanced. Matchups were formed, actually. In that sense, the playoff round was a bit empty. It seems like it will be a round without any significance. So at the end of the day, that part is it became meaningless. The round of 16 after the group stage wasn't that exciting either. Maybe because there, the group winners were matched with the group runners-up. Usually Bayern Munich is matched with Benfica or with Barcelona, I don't know. Although Barcelona hasn't been good recently, it was like Real Madrid was matched with Ajax. Because of such matchups, it generally wasn't very exciting. But let's see. Anyway, at the end of the season, I will do a comprehensive evaluation on the main channel in a slightly more visual way. For now, well, I'm neither positive nor negative. What do you think? You can tell me. Was the Europa League different? Let's talk about that if you want. It was different in the conference, a short conference. Assign the league, then we can talk about the Europa League. Since the Conference League had 6 matches, the rankings were closer. And actually, you needed to focus more on winning more matches there. But of course, we didn't follow it incredibly closely. Therefore, I don't have clear opinions. But the strongest teams were already in the top 8. By the way, I think it's a major disaster that Başakşehir couldn't be in the top 24. I think our other teams were also very unsuccessful, but Başakşehir also needs to be in the top 24 in the Conference League. You absolutely need to win your home matches if you want to advance in the Conference League. But generally, when you look at the top, only strong teams remained. The Europa League, on the other hand, was a bit more balanced. So the teams within it were balanced because the teams that could not go to the Champions League but were relatively strong were in the Europa League. And from now on, there was no risk of teams being relegated from the Champions League, which I think was an enjoyable thing. The Europa League became more enjoyable. It was also closer. The fight for the top 8 was more intense until the last moment. Again, there was quite a close competition for the top 24. And there weren't many teams that ended up with 0 points. I mean, like in the Champions League. In that sense, I can say it was a bit more balanced. That also made it more enjoyable. And of course, when our teams were involved, we followed it. We followed it more closely. it was more enjoyable for us. The last week was terrible. As I said on the broadcast, I enjoyed the Champions League broadcast much more. After all, when our teams can't win, you can't enjoy it as much. But still, it's worth mentioning that it was fun. So what happened again? The strongest gathered at the top. In my opinion, quite a few strong teams gathered at the top and are already waiting for the last 16 round. Again, the last playoff round consisted of matches that I think were not worth watching. In general, I mean, an average viewer wouldn't really watch what's happening. We watch our own teams more. I mean, if our team was normally going to be eliminated in the group stage, they are given a playoff chance. And with that playoff chance, we have more opportunities to watch our team. That actually brings in more viewing revenue. No matter what, in the Europa League, it's not like the Champions League where all matches are watched. There's no purpose. In the Conference League, there's none at all. Everyone already watches their own team. In the Conference League, it's been created to increase viewership in slightly lower ranked countries. I mean, since it's a tournament made to give those teams a chance, I don't really consider it in that sense, but in the Europa League, it won't be the same again. It's now easier for our teams to win under normal circumstances because, as I said, there are no teams dropping down from above. We'll see more of that in the second half of the season. But a strong team is still strong. They're progressing. This year, something like this will happen. United and Tottenham are potential opponents for Galatasaray. If they make it to the last 16, Galatasaray will be matched with one of them. There. Both of them are performing very poorly in their own league, the Premier League. So their only way to reach the Champions League is through this. That's why, for example, they will really put in a lot of effort. We see this often from Premier League teams and such. But this year, we will have a bit of a disadvantage in that sense, especially in the context of Galatasaray. On the other hand, Fenerbahce's path seems a bit more open, but in the quarterfinals, Lazio has been phenomenal so far. Truly, there are Lazio and Athletic. Both of them were, again, the two best teams in this tournament. The final will be played at San Mamés. It will be hosted by Athletic. They will want to be at home. Therefore, it's not very easy to say something about those areas right now. In general, I found the 8-match period a bit... I can say that following it was tiring and boring. Of course, in the last week, of course, it's not possible to see something like this again in the groups or so. It's much more entertaining this way. I can say that clearly. But when I look at the overall picture, how beneficial was it, both in terms of viewership and entertainment, it's not really possible to say anything about that yet. At least I can say that the Europa League is more entertaining on paper. Would I watch the matches that much? I wouldn't watch, but at least on paper, with the scores being close, it became more exciting. And at the end of the day, I find it quite funny that out of 36 teams, 24 remain, and 8 matches are played just to eliminate 12 teams. That doesn't really work out well. Especially in the video we made for the Conference League, I mentioned that maybe if there were more eliminations, it could increase the excitement in that regard. But it doesn't seem very possible to turn to something like that in the Europa League and Champions League, because it seems like they are trying to expand the broadcasting pie as much as possible. What do you think, friends? You can write below. Honestly, as I said, I'm confused and can't reach a clear conclusion. I'm curious about your opinions. We'll talk again at the end of the review anyway. See you later.